10 hidden U.S. towns where $2,000 month covers everything. Retirement paradise. Okay, so hear me out. $2,000 a month. That is not a lot of money. In Los Angeles, that is your parking spot, maybe. If you are lucky and your landlord is feeling generous and the moon is in the right phase. In New York City, $2,000 a month gets you a room in an apartment with 4 roommates and a shared bathroom, where someone is always mysteriously using all the hot water at 6 a.m. In San Francisco, $2,000 is basically a down payment on a cardboard box near a Whole Foods. But here's the thing that coastal financial advisors and real estate influencers do not want to reckon with. America is a very, very big country, and most of it is not San Francisco. There are actual towns in this country. Real towns with grocery stores and hospitals and restaurants and hiking trails. And people who seem genuinely happy. Where $2,000 a month does not just cover your rent. It covers your rent, your food, your utilities, your health care, a gym membership, a few dinners out, and maybe a small hobby that makes your kids slightly jealous. This video is about those places. And no, I am not going to tell you to move to a cornfield in Nebraska and raise chickens and call it retirement. These are real towns with real culture and real amenities. Some of them are genuinely beautiful. Some of them are quietly weird in the best possible way. And all of them are being discovered right now by people who got tired of paying $4,000 a month to be miserable in a city that stopped caring about them. Somewhere around 2019, let us get into it. Here is what nobody tells you about retirement planning in America. The whole system is built around a number that made sense in the 1990s and has been slowly collapsing under its own weight ever since. Financial advisors will tell you that you need $1 million, maybe $2 million, to retire comfortably. And if you are retiring in a major metro area, yeah, that tracks. You are going to need a pile of money, because the pile of money you hand your landlord every month is substantial. But the dirty little secret of American retirement is that where you live changes everything. Not a little, not marginally, everything. The Social Security average payout right now is somewhere around $1,800 to $1,900 a month for a retired worker. That is the average. Millions of Americans are living on roughly that number. And the conventional wisdom says that is not enough, that you are going to be miserable, that you need to supplement it or work part-time, forever or move in with your adult children who are also struggling. But that conventional wisdom is entirely built around coastal city prices, because here is the uncomfortable math. If you take that same $1,800 to $2,000 a month and move it to a small city in Arkansas, or a quirky arts town in New Mexico, or a river town in Kentucky, the math does not just work. It works comfortably. You are not scraping by. You are living. Now, before we go further, I want to be real with you. This is not a fantasy list. Every one of these places has trade-offs. Some have limited public transit. Some have health care gaps. Some are a little isolated. I'm going to tell you those things because pretending a place is perfect when it is not is how you end up moving somewhere and then being furious 6 months later. Also, these are towns that are currently affordable. Housing markets move. What costs $700 a month in rent today might cost $950 in 3 years. Because some YouTube channel made a video about it. Just saying, okay, top 10. Let us go. Number 10, Paducah, Kentucky. Most people hear the word Paducah and think it sounds made up, like someone just started saying syllables and ran with it. Paducah, Kentucky, is a real city of about 27,000 people sitting right at the confluence of the Ohio and Tennessee rivers, and it is one of the most quietly interesting small cities in America. The United Nations has designated Paducah as a creative city of crafts and folk art. That is not a joke. The UN looked at Paducah, Kentucky, and said yes, that one, which means there is a legitimate art scene here. Galleries, studios, murals, an entire Lower Town arts district. That feels like someone transplanted a Brooklyn neighborhood into the Midwest and then made it actually affordable. Rent for a solely-donny bedroom in Paducah is somewhere in the $600 to $800 range. At what bedroom might run you $800 to $1,000, groceries are below the national average. Utilities in Kentucky are cheap. The state does not tax Social Security income. Your $2,000 a month does not just survive here. It is money left over. The lifestyle is calm, river-adjacent, and genuinely charming. There are good restaurants, a casino if that is your thing, several excellent local breweries, and a healthcare system anchored by a regional hospital that serves the area reasonably well. The downside is that Paducah is not walkable in any meaningful way. You need a car, and the summers are hot and humid in a way that hits different when you are not 30 anymore. Also, if your social and political worldview skews a certain direction, Western Kentucky might occasionally feel like you are visiting a different country. But if the cost of living math is the primary variable you are solving for, Paducah solves it cleanly and then hands you an arts district on top. Number 9. Rome. Georgia, is not Rome, Italy, obviously, but it does have 7 hills and a river, and the locals will absolutely tell you that, frequently. This is a town of about 38,000 people in northwest Georgia, about an hour from Atlanta, and it is the kind of place where $2,000 a month feels almost indulgent. One-bedroom apartments are running in the $700 to $900 range in most neighborhoods. The cost of food and household goods is well below the national average. Georgia is one of the more retiree-friendly states on taxes, offering significant exemptions on retirement income depending on your age. What makes Rome interesting is that it punches above its weight culturally. There is a symphony orchestra, multiple colleges, including Berry College, which is one of the most beautiful campuses in the entire country. A downtown with actual independent restaurants that do not feel like they are trying too hard. A solid hospital system. The outdoor situation is legitimately good. You are close to the Coosa River. The beginning of the Appalachian Trail is not far. And the weather is a reasonable Georgia mild for a good chunk of the year. The trade-offs are predictable. It is scar-dependent. It is conservative. The summer humidity is no joke. And being an hour from Atlanta means you can get to a major city when you need to. But that commute is not something you are doing casually. Still, for $2,000 a month in Rome, Georgia, you are not just surviving. You are going to weekend farmers markets and watching live music and eating well, and still putting a couple of $100 aside every month. That is not nothing. Number 8, Aiken, South Carolina. Aiken is one of those places that has a personality and knows it. This is a small city of about 31,000 people in the South Carolina Midlands that has historically been a destination for wealthy northeastern horse people who wanted somewhere warm to keep their horses in winter. That history has left Aiken with an unusually high concentration of equestrian culture. Polo fields, beautiful historic homes, and tree-lined streets that look like someone drew them for a period drama. And then, somewhere in the middle of all that old money energy, you can rent a perfectly nice bedroom apartment for $750 to $950 a month. That disconnect is genuinely funny. South Carolina is one of the most tax-friendly states for retirees in the country. Social Security is fully exempt from state income tax. There are retirement income deductions that can be quite generous. Property taxes skew low. The overall cost of living index for Aiken is comfortably below the national average. The cultural vibe is genteel and slow-paced in a way that some people love, and some people find suffocating. There's a small but real art scene, some good restaurants, a hospital. You are about an hour from Columbia and about 2 hours from Charlotte, which covers most major medical or entertainment needs. The downside is that Aiken is not for everyone temperamentally. This is Old South small city life. If you thrive on density and diversity and metropolitan energy, Aiken will bore you senseless within a year. But if you want a quiet, beautiful, historically interesting place where your retirement budget actually works, and you want to occasionally watch a polo match for free on a Sunday afternoon, Aiken is genuinely charming. Also, the horses. There are so many horses. This is either a selling point or relevant, depending on who you are. Number 7, Kerrville. Texas Kerrville sits in the Texas Hill Country, about an hour northwest of San Antonio, in what might be the most unexpectedly beautiful part of the state. That most people mentally picture as flat and beige. The hill country is green, rolling, covered in cedar and live oak, crossed by the Guadalupe River. Kerrville sits on the Guadalupe, has a population of about 24,000, and has been quietly attracting retirees for years because the combination of scenery and cost works. One-bedroom rents are somewhere in the $800 to $1,100 range. Texas has no state income tax, which is a meaningful benefit. Social Security is not taxed at the federal level for most moderate-income retirees. And combined with Texas having no state income tax, that is a real number in your pocket each month. Property taxes in Texas are higher than average, which matters more if you own than if you rent. So factor that into your math. Kerrville has a legitimate arts presence. The Kerrville Folk Festival is nationally known. There is a symphony. There are good local restaurants concentrated around a charming downtown. The medical situation is reasonable with a regional hospital on site. And San Antonio being close enough for anything more complex. The trade-offs are the summer heat, which is not gentle, and the car dependency. This is Texas. You are driving everywhere. Also the property taxes. Again, if ownership is your plan rather than renting. But if you want hill country scenery, friendly small city culture, no state income tax, and a monthly budget that does not make you sweat, Kerrville is a very solid answer. Number 6. Port Townsend. Washington. Okay, now we are going somewhere that might surprise you. Washington State is not typically on the affordable retirement list. Seattle is expensive. The coast is expensive. But Port Townsend is over on the Olympic Peninsula, tucked into the northeast corner of the peninsula on the Puget Sound. And it operates in a slightly different economic universe. Port Townsend is about 10,000 people. Victorian architecture everywhere because the town was built as a major port in the late 1800s. And then the railroad went somewhere else, and the whole thing kind of froze in amber. The result is a remarkably preserved Victorian seaport town with a thriving arts community, excellent local food scene, a wooden boat festival that people travel from all over the world to attend, and a population that skews creative and independent. Rent for a one-bedroom runs somewhere in the $1,000 to $1,300 range, which is the highest on this list so far, but still workable in a $2,000 monthly budget, especially for the lifestyle return you are getting. Washington has no state income tax. Social Security is not taxed at the state level. The catch here is real, though. Port Townsend is geographically semi-isolated. You need a ferry or a long drive around to get to Seattle. Healthcare for anything complex means traveling. The weather is gray and rainy much of the year, which for Pacific Northwest people is either fine or wonderful. But for someone relocating from somewhere sunny, it is an adjustment. If you are the type of person who wants to live somewhere genuinely beautiful and culturally interesting and slightly eccentric, Port Townsend delivers that hard. If you need warm weather and easy access to major medical centers, keep scrolling. Number 5. Taos. New Mexico. Taos is legitimately one of the most interesting places in the United States, and also one of the strangest. And both of those things are completely true at the same time. This is a town of about 6,000 people at 7,000 feet elevation in northern New Mexico, surrounded by mountains, near a Native American pueblo that has been continuously inhabited for over 1,000 years, home to one of the most famous art colonies in American history, and the location of a very good ski resort. It is also a place where you will regularly encounter people who claim the town is built on a vortex. Your relationship with that information is your own business. Rent in Taos runs somewhere in the $800 to $1,100 range for a one-bedroom. New Mexico is meaningfully tax-friendly for retirees, with Social Security income exempt from state taxes for most earners, and retirement income deductions available. The cost of groceries and daily life is below national average. The elevation means the summers are cool and mild, even when the rest of the Southwest is an oven. The cultural density here is absurd for a town this small. World-class galleries. The Rio Grande Gorge, which you have to stand at the edge of at least once, because it will reorganize your sense of scale. Taos Pueblo, the Kit Carson home. Earthships if you want to visit some very committed people who build homes out of tires and bottles. The trade-offs are the isolation and the altitude. The nearest major city is Santa Fe, about 70 miles south. The altitude affects some people physically, particularly with respiratory conditions. Healthcare is limited locally. The winters can be serious, but for the retiree who wants beauty, culture, history, and a deeply weird and wonderful community. Taos is a top 5 American retirement town, and it is not particularly close. Number 4. Hot Springs. Arkansas Hot Springs, Arkansas, is the kind of place where you have to explain it to people, and then they immediately become interested. First of all, yes, the hot springs are real. There is a national park inside the city. The entire downtown is essentially a historic bathhouse district that has been operating since the 1800s, when this place was the wellness destination for the entire country. Babe Ruth used to come here. Al Capone used to come here. Bill Clinton grew up here. That is a very specific combination of historical figures today. Hot Springs is a lakeside mountain city of about 38,000 people with surprisingly good bones. The Ouachita Mountains surround it. Lake Hamilton and Lake Catherine are right there. The downtown is walkable and genuinely charming, with a great restaurant scene for its size, an arts center, galleries, a convention center, and those old bathhouses, several of which have been converted into a spa, a hotel, and a brewery, which is exactly the right use for a historic bathhouse. Rent in Hot Springs runs $650 to $900 for any bedroom. Arkansas is very favorable on retirement taxes. Social Security is not taxed. There are solid retirement income exemptions. Property taxes are very low. Groceries and utilities run below average. The healthcare situation is solid for a city this size. With a major medical center that serves the regional population, the lifestyle is outdoors, lake-oriented, slightly quirky, and very affordable. The summers are hot. The winters are mild. The people are friendly. What is the catch? The city has some poverty and the associated challenges that come with that. Some neighborhoods are not great. Traffic on the main corridor can be a mess. And if you are not into lakes and mountains and historic bathhouses, I honestly do not know what to tell you, but for $2,000 a month, Hot Springs might be the single best value on this entire list. Number 3. Bisbee, Arizona. Bisbee might be the most specific town on this list. This is not a town for everyone. It is a town for a very particular type of person, and that person knows exactly who they are. Bisbee is a former copper mining town in southeastern Arizona, about 6 miles from the Mexican border, built into steep canyon hillsides with streets that go up staircases, and houses that seem to defy gravity. Population around 5,000. It was a booming industrial city in the early 20th century. Declined when the mines closed, got discovered by artists and hippies in the 1970s, and has been a kind of quirky arts and counterculture enclave ever since. The town is visually extraordinary. The colors, the elevation changes, the old brick architecture, the desert landscape surrounding it. It photographs like a fever dream. People visit for a weekend and immediately start looking at real estate listings. Rent in Bisbee is surprisingly reasonable given how charming it is. One bedrooms run somewhere in the $700 to $950 range. Arizona taxes Social Security income for some earners, so run your specific numbers on that. But the overall cost of living is low, and the lifestyle return per dollar is exceptional. Here is what you give up. Bisbee is small and isolated. The nearest major city is Tucson, about 90 miles north. Healthcare locally is minimal. If you have significant medical needs, that distance matters. The internet and infrastructure are not always great. There is no walkable grocery store in the conventional sense. And the town has a specific vibe that some people love and some people find slightly too precious. If you are a painter, a writer, a retired musician, someone who wants to live somewhere beautiful and slightly outside the mainstream, Bisbee is almost criminally underrated. If you need a Costco within 10 minutes and a cardiac specialist within 30. Maybe not Bisbee. Number 2. Hot Springs Area Competition. Eureka Springs, Arkansas. To Arkansas towns? Yes, Arkansas simply does not get enough credit, and I'm not going to apologize for that. Eureka Springs is about 3 hours north of Hot Springs in the Ozark Mountains, and it is perhaps the most architecturally unique small town in the country. The entire downtown is on the National Register of Historic Places. Victorian buildings cascade down steep hillsides. There are no flat streets. The whole thing looks like someone built a European mountain village in the Ozarks, and then decided it was actually fine. Population is tiny, around 2,000 people, which is almost impossibly small for a town with this much going on. There are dozens of restaurants, a vibrant live music scene, multiple art galleries, a massive performing arts venue, a famous passion play that draws visitors from across the country, an LGBTQ-friendly community unusual for Arkansas, and a Harley-Davidson rally scene, all coexisting peacefully, which is either hilarious or inspiring depending on how you look at it. Rent is very low. Under $800 for a one-bedroom is realistic. Arkansas retirement tax benefits apply. The Ozarks are beautiful and the outdoor recreation is excellent. The trade-offs are real-size limitations. There is no significant hospital in Eureka Springs itself. You are an hour from Fayetteville or Rogers for major medical care. The roads are winding mountain roads, which is charming in summer and occasionally terrifying in winter. The economy is tourism-dependent, which creates some seasonal energy swings. But look, if you want somewhere genuinely unique, somewhere with actual culture and character, somewhere you will never hear anyone describe as generic, somewhere where $2,000 a month makes you feel wealthy relative to the cost of things around you, Eureka Springs belongs in the top 3 of any honest list. Number 1. Sedona, Arizona, with an asterisk the size of a red rock formation. Okay, before the comments explode, let me explain. Sedona is famous. Sedona is expensive by some measures. Sedona has vortexes and crystal shops and $30 meditation sessions and tourists in white linen pants taking photos of red rocks from the parking lot of a Tlaquepaque shopping village and then eating a $22 grain bowl. I know all of this, but here's the thing. Sedona proper has gotten expensive. I am not going to pretend otherwise. Rent in Sedona itself runs $1,200 to $1,500 for a one-bedroom now, which on a strict $2,000 monthly budget is workable but tight. However, the Verde Valley surrounding Sedona, towns like Cottonwood and Clarkdale and Camp Verde, sits 20 to 30 minutes away from the same red rock scenery, the same hiking trails, the same sunsets, the same jaw-dropping landscape. And rents for one-bedrooms in those towns run $800 to $1,100. You are splitting the difference between Sedona magic and Sedona prices and landing on Verde Valley. Math. So the number 1 entry on this list is really the Sedona region, understood broadly, with the acknowledgement that where exactly you plant yourself within that region determines whether the budget works cleanly or requires some creativity. Arizona has no tax on Social Security for lower income retirees and manageable tax burdens overall. Cottonwood has a hospital. Sedona has urgent care and specialty clinics. Flagstaff, with a full regional medical center, is 45 minutes north. The lifestyle case here is genuinely hard to beat. You are waking up to red rock formations every morning. The hiking is some of the best in the country. The climate is mild, warm, but not Phoenix-level brutal because the elevation moderates it. There's a real arts community, good local food, and the kind of natural beauty that people in cities pay thousands of dollars in vacation packages to visit for a weekend. The honest critique is that it is car-dependent. That water scarcity is a real and growing issue in the Southwest broadly, and that the tourism crowds in Sedona proper can make certain spots feel chaotic. Also, the vortex energy tourism is relentless, and if you are not into that, you will learn to tune it out quickly. But as a retirement destination that sits at the intersection of natural beauty, culture, budget viability, and climate, the Sedona region is the most seductive entry on this list. The math is tighter than the others, but the lifestyle return might be the highest out here is what I want you to actually take from this. The financial industry has accidentally gaslight an entire generation of pre-retirees into believing they need more money than they do, because the financial industry is largely built around people who live in expensive cities. And talk to other people who live in expensive cities. The math changes completely depending on where you live. Not by 10%, not by 20%. We are talking about the difference between feeling financially stressed and feeling financially stable on the exact same income. That gap is geographic arbitrage, and it is real. And it is available to anyone willing to actually consider it. Now, are all of these towns perfect? Obviously not. They are small. Some are isolated. Healthcare access is a legitimate concern in several of them. If you have complex medical needs or family obligations or a social network rooted in one place, picking up and moving to Bisbee or Paducah requires honest self-assessment. And I will say this clearly because some people are already typing a comment about it. $2,000 a month is not luxurious even in the cheapest towns on this list. It is workable, comfortable in places. It leaves a little room, but it is not a life of excess. It is a life of living within your means in a place that respects your means. The real question is not whether these towns are cheap enough. The real question is whether you are the kind of person who values where you live over how cosmopolitan it looks when you post about it. And that is a question that apparently sparks significant debate in the comments. Based on my experience with these topics, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it directly. Would you actually do it? Would you move from a major city to a small town in Arkansas or Arizona or Kentucky to make the math work? Or is the city life, the energy, the density, the status worth the financial stress? Drop it in the comments because I genuinely want to know. And also because the algorithm favors engagement and we are all just doing our best out here. If this video made you think or argue with your partner, or look up the population of Paducah at 11 p.m., that is a win. Hit subscribe if you want more of this kind of deep dive into the actual economic geography of this very confusing country. And if you end up moving to Eureka Springs, send me a postcard. Because honestly, I kind of want one.